Now, we've all heard the stories about actors turning down roles which end up being star-making smash hits for those who eventually accepted them. But considering how so many great movies are simply tough sells before cameras start rolling, it's tough to blame them too much. That said, once each movie was released to critical and/or commercial success, they quickly changed their tune, and in later interviews even openly expressed regret that they didn't take the part initially offered to them on a silver platter. And make sure you let us know down in the comments of your choices of actors in roles that could have been. Will Smith as Neo in The Matrix, anyone? So let's dive into ours. I'm Adam, this is Whatculture, and here are 7 actors who rejected movies for being too evil and regretted it.
Want to stay safe online and save big? Get up to 76% off a 2-year NordVPN plan, plus 4 months free and up to a $50 Amazon gift card. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description and it's all yours.
Number 7. Michelle Fifer, The Silence of the Lambs. By her own admission, Michelle Fifer is an extremely picky performer and has turned down numerous high-profile hits, from Thelma and Louise to Basic Instinct, Pretty Woman, Sleepless in Seattle, and most shockingly, The Silence of the Lambs. After working with director Jonathan Demme on his 1988 movie Married to the Mob, which was a major breakout for Fifer, he offered her the lead role of FBI trainee Clarice Starling in The Silence of the Lambs, but she turned it down due to the evil in the script. She told IndieWire, "With Silence of the Lambs, I was trepidatious. There was such evil in that film. I was uncomfortable with that ending. I didn't want to put that out into the world." And so Fifer passed on the role that instead went to Jodie Foster, who ended up winning the Best Actress Oscar for her incredible performance in the film. In the same interview, Fifer admitted regret over turning down the part, though it wasn't so much due to missing out on a juicy role that had a strong chance of winning her an Oscar, but because she never got another opportunity to work with Demme, who sadly passed away in 2017. The thing I most regret is missing the opportunity to do another film with Jonathan. Number 6. Denzel Washington, 7. Denzel Washington was originally offered the role of Detective David Mills in David Fincher's Seven, as was of course ultimately played so brilliantly by Brad Pitt, enough that it's tough to imagine another actor playing that part. All the same, the offer to Washington went out first, but the actor ended up turning it down due to his misgivings over the bleak nature of the material. In a 2018 Thrillist interview, he said, "I turned down Seven. They wanted me to play the Brad Pitt role. I thought the script was too demonic." But Washington certainly changed his tune once he sat down and watched the movie for himself. "Then I saw the movie, and I was like, I blew it. But it's worked out alright." While Washington's career certainly didn't suffer for turning down Seven, and it's evidently not a decision that haunts him at night, it's nevertheless a crying shame that film lovers missed out on seeing Denzel work with David Fincher while co-starring opposite Morgan Freeman. Number 5. Heather Graeme, Heathers. 1989's delirious black comedy Heathers remains one of the most controversial, if brilliant, films of the 1980s, so it's little surprise that many prominent actors turned down roles in it. One such actress was Heather Graeme, who was offered the part of Heather's ruthless leader, Heather Chandler. However, with Graeme being just 17 at the time of production, she required parental approval, and her parents took serious objection to the script's edgier elements, calling the film offensive and refusing to let her star in it. Director Michael Lehman spoke to EW in 2014 about Graeme being forced to turn down the role. "I really wanted to cast Heather Graeme as Heather Chandler, and her parents wouldn't let her do it. She was 16 or 17. I even talked to Heather's mother at great length to convince her we weren't tools of Satan, and she would have nothing of it. I really tried. I mean, I begged her. Heather's reading was just great." Then the casting director said, "Well, Kim Walker might be good. She doesn't have a lot of experience, but..." And indeed, Kim Walker won the part in Graeme's place, while Graeme was left to lament a project her parents wouldn't let her appear in, one which received rave reviews and still endures as a cult classic almost 35 years later. Graeme wasn't left without work though, as the very same year she appeared in Gus Van Sant's acclaimed crime drama Drugstore Cowboy. Number 4. John Wayne, Dirty Harry. Tough though it is to picture anyone but Clint Eastwood playing the role of Dirty Harry's Harry Callahan, he was far from the studio's first choice. Among the first names they considered was John Wayne, who, given his standing in Hollywood as an outspoken conservative Republican, seemed like the perfect fit to play the titular good guy with a gun. Yet Wayne ended up not playing the part, and there have been numerous explanations for why over the years, one being that at 63 years of age, he was deemed too old, and another being that he didn't appreciate being offered the role after Frank Sinatra turned it down. By far the most interesting one though, is that Wayne wasn't much of a fan of Callahan's presentation as a loose cannon, which in addition to him being fed up of playing law-breaking rogues, allegedly prompted him to turn it down. But Wayne later admitted he was totally wrong about Dirty Harry, saying, "I made a mistake with that one." While it's easy to appreciate why Wayne was considered, Clint Eastwood is Dirty Harry, and with Wayne being over 20 years older than Eastwood, it's unlikely he would have brought quite the same grizzled intensity to the part. Number 3. John Lithgo, Batman. If things had worked out differently, the world could have been blessed with a Batman movie starring John Lithgo as the Joker. In the early stages of developing what would eventually become Tim Burton's 1989 Batman, Gremlins director Joe Dante was attached to helm, and for the role of the Joker, he couldn't imagine anyone else but Lithgo playing the part. However, Lithgo ended up taking himself out of the running due to feeling that, coming off the back of mentally draining stage work, he didn't have the emotional energy to tackle a character as dark as the Joker. He said in a 2017 Vulture interview, "I was doing M. Butterfly on Broadway and it was an exhausting show. It would have meant leaving that show and going right into the movie. And I said, I just don't think I can. How about that for stupid? Actors are not necessarily smart people." Curiously, Lithgow ended up turning the Joker role down a second time years later when Burton came on board, noting that during his audition he effectively talked Burton out of casting him. "My worst audition was for Tim Burton for Batman. I have never told anyone this story, but I tried to persuade him I was not right for the part, and I succeeded. I didn't realize it was such a big deal. About a week later, I heard they were going after Robin Williams and Jack Nicholson. Ugh, I'd love to see Lithgow as Joker. What could have been?" Number 2. Mia Farrow, True Grit. In the case of 1969's legendary western True Grit, Mia Farrow wasn't so much concerned with the material as she was the hellish reputation of the film's director Henry Hathaway. Farrow was offered the role of teenager Mattie Ross, which she actually accepted, but before shooting started she was advised by her secret ceremony co-star Robert Mitchum to avoid working with Henry Hathaway due to his infamy for being cruel to actors. One screenwriter, Wendell Mays, even called Hathaway probably the toughest son of a bitch in Hollywood. And with that, Farrow first asked producer Hal B. Wallace to replace Hathaway with Roman Polanski, who she'd previously worked with on Rosemary's Baby, but Wallace declined. As a result, Farrow exited the film, with the part ultimately going to Kim Darby. In later years, Farrow went on to describe her choice as the biggest personal and professional mistake. Yikes! Number 1. Russell Crowe, Walk the Line. Now, evil might be a bit of a stretch here, but Russell Crowe nevertheless had a serious moral crisis when he was approached to play Johnny Cash in 2005's music biopic Walk the Line. In an Australian radio interview, Crowe revealed precisely why he turned down the role. "It was one of those funny things with an internal morality. It was like, this is a dream job for me. I'd been playing, singing Johnny Cash songs ever since I was a little boy. But I felt that I would be then getting stuff that I hadn't earned, that I'd be climbing on Johnny Cash's back to get Grammy nominations or something. It just felt wrong to me." And so, feeling a sense of ick about riding Cash's coattails, Crowe declined the part, which went to Joaquin Phoenix, who received a Best Actor Oscar nomination for his work, and yes, a Grammy. For his part, Crowe called Phoenix brilliant in the role. Crowe candidly admitted, however, that he does have a twinge of regret about saying no to the film, especially considering how well it turned out, adding that he would have had a great time on that movie. While it's easy to see Crowe absolutely crushing the part, it's also tough to begrudge Phoenix's mesmerizing work in his place.